Alright, so before I even begin to talk about anything else, I want to clarify some things first. Despite what the title says, I'm not actually a big Borderlands 3 hater. While yes, I was a fan of the story, there are many other aspects of Borderlands 3 that I do like. But the main story for me was so unbearable that it prevented me from wanting to play the game more. And that was about roughly 2 to 3 years ago, whenever I felt that way about the game, because at the time, well, actually still am, a Borderlands 2 supremacist. But recently, what made me want to give Borderlands 3 another shot is two reasons. One, Borderlands 4 is on the horizon, and I'm sure remnants of Borderlands 3 will be in the new Borderlands game, so might as well refresh my memory on the Borderlands timeline. And the second reason is that about 2 months ago, my friend wanted to randomly play Borderlands 3, but instead of doing the usual start with a level 1 character and build your character up that way, we did the option where you can start with like a level 30 character and just get into the game and skip like 98% of the story. And I'm not gonna lie, I had a lot of fun. And so, since I had a lot of fun, I figured I would replay through the whole story again and give my thoughts on it after not playing it for a few years. Now look, I'm not trying to justify why I say what I do in this video. The Borderlands community isn't some death cult, so I'm sure most of you either don't care or feel offended by what I have to say about Borderlands 3, but I want to give you context as to why I'm going to say what I do in this video. As I said, it had been a few years since I'd played the story, and this time around during my playthrough, I came in here with an open and fresh mind. I came in here lowering my expectations a bit and just wanted to have a good time and try and take in the good things that the game does. And spoiler alert, I actually had a lot of fun playing through Borderlands 3. Now, don't think that just because I enjoyed my playthrough of 3 means that all of the issues in the story's writing are just magically gone. I will be talking about that all later in the video. But this time around, I do have a bit more positive to say than what past me would have said. Man, past me would have been so pissed to see what I'm gonna have to say. And for this video, I will be mainly talking about the story of Borderlands 3 rather than talking about every aspect of the game and or comparing it to like Borderlands 2. I don't find that necessary, and it would just take me longer to make the video than what I would want it to. But I very well might compare some elements of the story between Borderlands 2 and 3. But other than that, that's gonna be it. So, anyway, without any further, that fancy word for waiting, let's talk about Borderlands 3. The game starts out like every other Borderlands game with an opening cinematic, just basically Gearbox flexing their 3D animation skills. I always enjoy seeing these after I haven't played a Borderlands game in a long time. They always just set the right mood and do a good job of showing off the characters and their special abilities. I also really like that this whole fight is just a bar fight. I don't know if that's a weird thing to like about it, but the heavy going on with this intro as well just makes it all come together. Gearbox has so far always hit the nail on the head with these intros. Then, once the cutscene is over, it doesn't take long till we get into the gameplay. Now, for the sake of organization, I'm going to make separate sections in this video for the story and the gameplay. I'll start with the story first, since the game story is, a bit silly at best. Now, as I said at the beginning, this game's story is one of the reasons why I never really played the game again a few years after I finished it for the first time. And even though I actually did enjoy playing it this time around for this video, that also doesn't mean that I'm saying that the story is good and having some revisionist view of it. But I think the reason why I didn't hate it as much this time around was because I have played Borderlands 2 so many times that playing through 3 was just such a fresh experience that made me like it a bit more. I absolutely love Borderlands 2. But I'm not gonna lie, after playing through the game several dozen times, there are certain parts of the story and game that I'm honestly just exhausted from doing. But that doesn't mean Borderlands 2's story is bad or unenjoyable, just means I've played the game too much. But my most favorite parts in Borderlands 3 is Athena's and Eden 6. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Just like every other Borderlands game, we start on Pandora. Claptrap gives us the new Echo 4s, which honestly look really cool. I really liked that they made the Echo devices like actual devices that you hold in your hand and can customize them. I really hope to see more of this in Borderlands 4. Alright, I'm just gonna say it. the new Claptrap fucking sucks. I know that the old voice actor and Randy had a dispute between each other, and to be honest, I don't know what happened between the two, but it was so bad enough for him to leave Gearbox, and now sadly the new Claptrap just sounds like a dork. I'm sorry to the current voice actor, I'm sure he tries his best, but his voice now is like actually unironically unbearable to listen to, and just how he talks and his mannerisms are unironically unbearable. I know that's like the whole thing with Claptrap, but in Borderlands 2, it was done in a way that was endearing and made Claptrap among some of my most favorite characters in the Borderlands games. But in 3, he just fucking yaps and yaps and yaps and just says stupid, annoying shit that's not funny.
Minion! Let's go to 1,000 cuts!
Or not.
I enlisted you as my minion, then Angel just happened to attack Sanctuary. Don't you get it? Jack was coming after me! It's time to take the fight to him! I'll meet you in 1,000 cuts! This is it, Minion! Our vengeance is finally at hand! Let's tear this planet a new soul! Yeah! Hyperion's gonna regret ever setting foot on Pandora! Minion, I'm gonna get that door open so I can take care of that handsome bastard myself! You hear me, Jack? You killed my friends! You destroyed my product line! I am the last Claptrap in existence, and I am going to teabag your corpse!
Hey, you must be the new recruit. I am a CL4PTP steward bot, but you can just call me General Claptrap of the Crimson Raiders! Thanks. I'll pre-order your tombstone just in case. Now, those jerks who tried to murder you are the Children of the Vault, a bandit cult who follow their creepy leaders with blind devotion. Which reminds me, if you're going to obey my every beck and call, you'll need an echo device. Now listen up, recruit. Lilith ordered us to take over a Children of the Vault propaganda center. Time to show those culty weirdos that no one messes with the Crimson Raiders. Follow me, recruit, to glory! Hustle up, everybody! Get on the ship! You heard the commander! Scrub those decks! Batten down the interns! We're leaving this parched armpit behind! The stars are our destination! Screw you, Pandora! You can't hurt us anymore!
And this is a big problem in the writing that I will be talking about later. Claptrap does another one of his cringe moments that he will have several times more throughout the game, and this is where we first encounter some bandits that are members of the Children of the Vault cult, or COV, as you will hear them be called most of the time. And after killing our first boss, we get a small glimpse into who our main villains are going to be, the Calypso twins. Now there's going to be a lot I have to say about these guys. I will get to them soon. But for the most part, not really much happens in the early game other than just introducing some past characters and Vaughn. Now Vaughn isn't a new character to this game, and in fact he is a character brought in from a different Borderlands game called Tales from the Borderlands. But the first mainline Borderlands game he was brought into was Borderlands 2 in the DLC Fight for Sanctuary. Now, I haven't played Tales from the Borderlands, which I know it's a crime I haven't, but maybe one day I'll finally play it. But from what I've heard, Vaughn has had a massive character assassination in the newer contents of Borderlands. And I will say, I cannot stand Vaughn. In the DLC and in 3, I do not like Vaughn whatsoever. Vaughn is one out of the other many characters that highlight exactly what's wrong with the game's writing. When we meet Vaughn, the only thing that comes out of his mouth are quips, one-liners, and constant yapping that always has to force a joke out some way or another.
Even though I'm totally unarmed, can't let him know you're afraid and totally defenseless, bro. Bandit life! Oh man, the Children of the Vault totally trashed my camp! Like, that is not where that bloody skull should be! It is completely ruining the vibe! I'm sure Lilith will be glad to see me. We're tight, bro. Super tight. Like, bro tight. It's a thing. You got the map? Nice! So, did you see any of my Sun Smashers? And why do you smell like dust and skin?
Murder party. Extremely dead. Tyrene Calypso did it. Condolences.
Damn it! I never told them. No! Sun Smashers never cry. If Tyrene Calypso wants a blood feud, she's got one. Blood feud!
And this type of writing is called millennial writing, aka the worst type of writing in modern entertainment. Every single fucking thing these characters have to say always has to be some quip, a one-liner, a joke that leads into another joke that just ends up getting awkward because they don't know how to shut up. The villains are like this, and the side characters are like this. The Vault Hunters are like this to some degree, but honestly the Vault Hunters actually aren't that bad. And I mean, it's just how the playable characters are. From Borderlands 1 to 3, they've always said some quips and one-liners, so it's nothing that I think goes to the extreme, like it can with some other characters. Okay, I feel like I don't need to recap the story because I'm sure the vast majority of you have already played through the game. And if you haven't, then just go play it right now. Don't listen to me about what I have to say. But where I like to start with the game's story writing is with the villains. We're introduced to the villains pretty early on in the game, but we actually get to see them in the flesh near the end of the saga of getting off Pandora. And the villain showing up is one problem out of the several others that are bound to happen further on. Now the villains themselves showing up isn't exactly the issue. It's what happens in the scene that just gives me mixed feels about it. It is no contest that Lilith is the strongest siren on Pandora and possibly the current strongest one in the universe. My evidence for this? In Borderlands 2, in one of the side quests, you pick up echo logs of Jack hiring bandits to try and capture Lilith, and on the final echo log he mentions something about her being the strongest siren in the known universe. And the reason why I find Jack very credible is because he is in search of powerful sirens for his goals. Now, granted of course, at the time lore-wise, the Calypso twins were pretty young at this time and Necrotafea was still hidden to outsiders. But in this fight, Tyreen overpowers Lilith, and Lilith just looks slow and sloppy when she would quite honestly be the opposite. Being the leader of the Crimson Raiders, being a Vault Hunter for a long time, and being the strongest siren of Pandora, and possibly the known universe, why did Lilith just let herself be steamrolled by a couple of brats with no combat experience? I feel like this scene would have made more sense if either Lilith put up more of a fight, or she completely overpowered them and they had to retreat. I get what they were trying to do with the Tyreen overpowering Lilith. Making your villain stronger than your hero is a trope that can work, but it has to be done right. And I personally don't think the scene was done right. You have this conflict of power scale where Lilith is supposed to be the strongest siren on Pandora. Okay, but what about Hector in the Lilith DLC for Borderlands 2? Why couldn't she solo Hector and his army? My rebuttal? His gas. If you play through that DLC, then you will know how fucking dangerous that gas was for any living creature. So when it comes to one-on-one combat between sirens, Lilith should have had it in the bag. But this is just one point out of the many others where you can really see that this game had multiple writers and probably most of them had never played previous Borderlands games. And the reason for my theory for that is because of Ava. Yes, everyone's most favorite beloved character, Ava. The one with so much charisma and relatability. That Ava. So if you've played any Borderlands game in the past, you would know that sirens are born, not made. Well, for some reason now sirens can be made instead of just being born, and none of this is ever explained. Ava can just become a siren for no reason. How? Tannis can just become a siren for no reason. How? Whoever came up with this plot in the story clearly never played any of the previous Borderlands games, otherwise they would have known this. But to be honest, I'm not too surprised when Randy himself seems like he doesn't even know what's going on in his own game anymore. And with mentioning Ava, I have a few things I have to say about her. Yes, it is a scientifically proven fact that Ava is the worst, most hated character in all of Borderlands. She is the Ice Age baby of Borderlands. But Ava's character isn't flawed in a way to make her realistic and mirror the angsty era of being a snarky teenager. She is flawed because whoever wrote her has the mindset of a teenager. Which really sucks because in one of the cut content, Ava ends up having a redemption arc. After the death of Maya, she reflects on that situation and realizes she is the one at fault for her death. And in this cut content, she later apologizes to everyone and owns up to getting Maya killed, and talks about stories she and Maya had on her journey with becoming Maya's pupil. And when I learned about this cut content, I was just as perplexed as you are right now because this would have been amazing character development arc for Ava. People would have ended up having more respect for Ava because then she would have been relatable. Every single one of us has made some mistakes in our lives, young or old. And as we get older and more wise, we spend more time reflecting on our mistakes, and that helps us grow to be better people. And when someone takes ownership of their mistakes, people end up respecting you more for it because it shows your ability to reflect on those past mistakes and shows that you have humility. But for some reason, the teenage-minded brat at the writing table said, no, this is a terrible character story arc. She did nothing wrong and the world revolves around her because she's a girl boss. And girl bosses are never wrong. Why? Because she said so. So, instead of getting possibly one of the best side characters in the game, we ended up getting the worst side character. But thankfully, this game does have some good side characters. Besides all of the good characters that were brought over from older Borderlands games, they do introduce some new characters that I do like and I think are good. One character somewhat early in the game that I like is Katagawa. I find his rivalry with Reese and the back and forth shitting they have on each other is quite entertaining and really makes me like him as an early side villain. To be honest, I think I enjoy Katagawa more as a villain than I do the Calypso twins. He's got that overly confident attitude that a high-powered villain should have, but he's not annoying with it. He's that perfect balance of a cocky, overconfident, snarky villain that you hate in a good way, and not that you hate him because you can't stand him because he's a horribly designed character. A few other characters I really like are Wainwright and Clay. These two characters I think are great examples showing the absolute bipolar dichotomy of story writing in this game. In so many places does the writing feel weird or bad or just off in some way, then in other places there's really good story writing and world building. And I think Wainwright and Clay being another piece of that amazing story writing that Borderlands can deliver. Hell, I honestly think all of Eden 6 is great. I know a lot of people like to make fun of the fact that Ice-T is in this game, who plays Balex, but honestly, I actually really liked Balex. I found his breakup with him and Genevieve kind of humorous, and also Clay and Wainwright's stories here were really good too. I really liked going through and helping Clay find out what happened to his old gang, and Wainwright's part by going to this prison and rescuing Hammerlock, another character I really like originally coming from Borderlands 2. I really like the storyline of having to go to the Jacobs mansion to fight Aurelia to then learn that Troy has been making secret meetings with her because he's working towards becoming the leader of the cult to overthrow his sister, which I will talk about later. But the whole storyline on Eden 6 is probably my most favorite in the whole entire game because it's a point in the game where I feel like the writing is just perfect and the pacing is just perfect as well. There is of course the typical Borderlands humor throughout this part of the game, but I feel like the humor is a lot more in line with that traditional Borderlands humor than what some of the humor was during the Promethea parts. And if y'all been around for a bit, then you already know I have a weakness for tropical environments. So Eden 6 being a tropical environment and having some of the better storyline in the whole game a coincidence? I don't know. But Eden 6 is my most favorite portion of the game, visually and story-wise, with Athena's coming in second, which I really do love Athena's. Like, my god, look at how hard Gearbox went into making this place one of the most breathtaking locations in all of gaming. Now, I know I've been blabbing on for a bit about things that don't really matter that much, so there are a few more things I want to talk about before I move on to talk about the gameplay. Earlier I was talking a bit about the Calypso twins, but I didn't go as in depth as I wanted to. But now I would like to dedicate a bit more time to talk about them since they are the main villains of this game. And I feel a bit mixed when it comes to the Calypsos because just like many other problems in this game, there's a lot of bad, but the good that's in there almost carries the equal, balancing out the good and the bad. I think that the biggest issue that plagues Borderlands 3's story is the fact that they made them streamers. I don't know what Gearbox was thinking when they decided to go with the plot of, yeah, our main villains are fucking streamers. I get that they were probably trying to make a story that was somewhat relevant at the time because streaming and live streaming culture was really starting to blow up around the time when the game's story was being made, but the whole streamer thing also takes away some of the serious bits that Borderlands can deliver. The reason why the past two other game stories hold the test of time is because they take place in their own respective universe that isn't trying to mimic ours. Yes, we use all of our all-time knowledge of civilization to create these fictional worlds because, I mean, where else are you going to come up with this stuff? But it's still self-contained and made in a way to feel believable in that setting. I think making the main villain streamers and going all in on the humor took away those dark parts of Borderlands and made the game feel more like a modern Marvel movie rather than Borderlands. Listen, I love Borderlands humor. Every time I play through Borderlands 2, I always fucking chuckle at the spoon story Jack tells about when you reach the Highlands. That shit is always funny to me and never fails to make me laugh.
You see, this is what I don't get about you bad guys. You know the hero's gonna win, but you just don't die quickly. Man, example, this one guy is doing it, right? City's burning, people are dying left and right, yada yada yada. This jackhole rushes me with his spoon. A freaking spoon, and I'm dying laughing, right? So I scoop out his stupid little eyeballs with it, and his kids are all, wah! And I can't, he can't see where he's going, he's bumping into stuff, and anyway, I don't know, maybe you had to be there. The moral is, you're a total bitch. You're a plague bandit.
But what makes it so good is that it's not trying to make a joke. It is a story Jack is telling you that fits so well in the absurd universe that Borderlands is, and what makes it so funny is Jack's delivery on it. He himself finds it so humorous that some person would rush him with a spoon because they are so desperate to kill him. But the spoon story doesn't serve just as a haha moment, it also paints a picture of how deprived Pandora has become because of Jack. People are in such despair that their only option to even attempt to end Jack's life is to rush him with a fucking spoon. But that's what makes Jack such a great villain. Every time he talks, he says something meaningful and you want to listen to him, even if he's just talking about how badly he wants to kill you. You respect Jack's tenacity and determination to kill you, and even then, Jack isn't immune to pressure. Several times in the game does Jack get frustrated that you aren't dead, and when you're invading the bunker, you can hear in his voice how scared he actually is.
Made it past the security wall, huh? That's, it's real cute. Of course, the bunker's still gonna obliterate you, but nonetheless, cute.
We only ever see Jack physically twice throughout the whole game. And the 2 times he's on screen, he's doing something to bring himself closer to controlling Pandora. And those moments are when he kills Roland and forces Lilith to charge the vault key. Meanwhile, we see the Calypso twins several times during the game. And the only problem that can happen with this is if you have the villain appear in front of your protagonist too many times without things ever really happening. It makes your villains feel more like bad guys that appear every so often to check in to see how close you are to defeating them. With Jack, you can see and feel his presence all throughout Pandora. And though I will say, through the vast majority of the game, Jack doesn't really feel like a threat until he kills Roland and abducts Lilith. And that was intentional. The game leads you into this false sense of security where you think Jack is going to do nothing to you and he's all talk. The build up to him killing Roland was executed perfectly. You never saw it coming. The game did not blow its load too early or too late. The death of his daughter was the perfect boiling point where he shows you he means business. Meanwhile, the Calypso twins, on the other hand, just kind of blow their load early on, and that's really about it. And again, as I was talking about earlier, showing the victory of your villain early on can be a great way of cementing how intimidating and powerful your villain is. I just don't think it was done right, and I think it's a combination of what I was talking about earlier in the video, with Lilith just kind of being a wet fart of a siren, and the Calypsos being these cult leaders that livestream. And I think the whole cult thing would be fine. I think would work very well in the style of Borderlands. I just think adding on to make them streamers also took away any serious aura they could have had. But as I was mentioning earlier, not everything about them is all bad. A couple of things I really would have liked to see expanded upon with the Calypsos is their power dynamic and Typhon to Leon. I forget exactly where you start to see the twins have an issue start occurring where they begin to have this power dynamic, where one is trying to overthrow the other, but further on in the game's storyline, this dynamic starts to become more obvious, especially when you hear the echologues between Troy and Aurelia. Troy wants to take over the COV and overthrow his sister and become the cult leader. I think they should have leaned into this a lot more than what they did. It was like kind of happening, but then your fight with Troy just kind of ends with that. I think aspects of the twins' relationship would have had more of an impact if instead of Troy just leeching off Tyrene for the final battle, Troy betrays Tyrene before he fights you, then Tyrene has to escape after you've defeated Troy. Now, when it comes to Necro DeFeo, I feel a bit conflicted with this part of the story. I do feel like the fake-out ending to extend the game's runtime was pushing the game's story too far. I think that the game could easily do without the Necro DeFeo part if this part of the story never existed. But since this part of the game does exist, I don't think the game would feel right if you took it out of the game now as it stands. And I will say, without Necro DeFeo, the game would not have the greatest side character in all of Borderlands, Typhon DeLeon. And I'm not gonna lie, Typhon alone carries the storyline of the Calypsos. Typhon is easily one of my most favorite characters in this whole game. Not only is it because he's a short king like me, but he's just completely maxed out in the charisma stats. I mean, how can you hate him? That's why the story behind why the twins are the way they are tells me that whoever wrote the backstory for the twins either had no clue what it was like to grow up with a good father figure, or they made the twins the little shit-headed brats they are because they just want you to hate them. And one of my biggest pet peeves I have when it comes to villains is just making them evil for the sake of making them evil. Again, to look back at Jack, when you learn more about how Jack came to be, it makes a lot more sense why he's done the things he's done and kind of went crazy. I find it kind of funny that Jack isn't even in the game, and yet there's a side quest in this game that gives Jack even more character development than the Calypso twins. I'll play you the clips of that side quest.
That's a portrait of handsome Jack, before he became the torturing, mass-murdering CEO of Hyperion. Back when he was just a coder, a husband, and soon-to-be father of the aforementioned Angel. There's a hidden chamber behind that portrait. You'll have to move it out of the way. From our findings in the vault, I believe sirens are able to imbue memories into physical objects. It may not even be a conscious effort. I recovered one of Angel's childhood toys. Start there.
Captain Bear, who is a bear? He is a bear, Captain Bear.
Hey, Angel. Who's this guy?
Captain Bear, he eats crime.
Oh, he must be eating a lot with that big belly, huh? Hey, Angel, darling, what's that on your arm? Did you do that?
Blue. I don't know where it came from. Do you think it's pretty?
Yeah, sweetheart, it's real pretty. Hey, honey, can you get in here for a minute? Stupid, goddamn, piece of crap asshole!
What's an asshole?
Oh, Angel, sweetheart, I'm sorry I didn't see you standing there. Don't say any of those words that Daddy said, okay?
Okay. Is the machine broken?
Yeah, looks like no candy for us. Hey, why don't you go back into the waiting room with Mommy, darling? The doctor's gonna be here any minute, okay?
I think I can fix it.
What the hell did you just do, Angel?
Mommy, Daddy, help!
Look, you filthy bandit. Just give us back our daughter, okay?
Are you kidding? She's a freaking siren. I'm gonna be a trillionaire. You and your wife get out of here before I stick my turrets on you. Forget the kid. Go make another one.
No, I want to go home!
Shut up, kid, or I'll... Hey, what the...
I want to go home!
Mommy, get down! No! No!
Mommy?
No! Angel, what did you do? What did you do?
Angel's pain was so great that it was enough to repower that turret. That terrified girl's scars run deep. There's one more artifact. Look for a Hyperion communication satellite.
Daddy, please, let me out!
No can do, my sweet little angel. You're in that chair for your own good, okay?
You're such an asshole!
Language. Look, sweetheart, I can't let you out because of what you did to your mother, okay? I just couldn't bear it if something else happened to you.
I didn't mean to.
Shh, I know, darling. That's why you need to stay in that chair. But I got you something. That chair is connected to the entire Hyperion network. Now you can see through every satellite we own around every planet in the sky. You've got the best view in the whole universe from that chair. We're gonna work together. You and me, kiddo. Sound good?
Yeah. Okay.
I love you, Angel.
I love you too, Dad.
Angel spent most of her life chained to Hyperion technology. With those memories, I think I have enough to fix the water purifier now. Go to Roland's Rest, and I will attempt to interface with it.
I think what makes Jack such a good villain too is that he ultimately is just human. Meanwhile, the Calypsos don't feel human at all. And I get that they're sirens, so they're much stronger than a normal human, but I really would have liked a little bit more human aspects about them, other than just their hunger for power over each other and their selfishness, which doesn't really feel that realistic here. Now, if Typhon had been a piece of shit of a dad and gave them the bare minimum and treated them like they were monsters and literally put them in a cage, then yeah, I would get their frustration. But Typhon gave them everything he could and they still weren't grateful. It just doesn't feel believable. Either way though, I'm so glad this part of the game does exist solely because of Typhon. I love this guy and it really pisses me off that they killed him off so quick and so cheaply. Before I finish off this video, I want to talk about the gameplay a bit because, I mean, how can you not talk about gameplay when it comes to a Borderlands game? Even before, when I was a big hater on Borderlands 3, I still really liked the gameplay. And even after replaying for this video, I still really enjoyed the gameplay. I have played every Vault Hunter but Zane before this playthrough, and I gotta say, I think Zane is one of my most favorite Vault Hunters to play. Not only does he have a lot of personality compared to other Vault Hunters, but he's just also extremely fun to play. I really like his skill tree set and combining his drone and clone along with all the kill skills he gets makes him pretty busted even early on in the game. Now, when it comes to looting, Borderlands 3 definitely streamlined the whole looting thing more than what previous Borderlands games did. Out of all the Borderlands games, 2 is definitely the one that has the most amount of grinding to get legendary gear because of the low drop rates. Borderlands 3 supposedly has a roughly 10% drop chance on most legendary gear in the game, at least according to Loot Lemon. But during my playthrough, I had like over 20 legendaries when I wasn't even halfway done with the game, and I did no farming whatsoever. So either I just got really good rolls or the drop rates are much higher than what Loot Lemon is giving. But even before replaying this game for this video, I always remember Borderlands 3 having very generous loot drops, which was another thing I didn't really like about the game because it just didn't feel as rewarding compared to 2, when you would be farming for a long time to get whatever piece of gear you wanted. And speaking of gear farming, endgame. I'm gonna be honest, while I didn't hate the game's story that much this time around, I don't think I could really stand playing through it again on True Vault Hunter mode simply because of how long and exhausting the story can be, along with its writing making it very mentally taxing to play through at times. But thanks to Mayhem mode, if you're like me and don't want to play through the game again, you can just do whatever you have left by turning on Mayhem mode so everything scales with you, and gives you higher loot drops and higher XP yields. But again, just like with a bunch of other things in this game, I feel a bit mixed about Mayhem mode. As I said, I really like that Mayhem mode allows you to continue the game where you left off after you finish the main story. So if you're one of those people that don't like playing through the game over and over and over again to reach the end game, it basically starts after you finish the main game. But the aspects I absolutely hate about Mayhem mode is the Anointeds. The higher the Mayhem you go, the enemies become more bullet spongy, and depending how high you go on the levels, you start to get modifiers that can act as either a benefit to both you and the enemy or just straight up negatives to you. Now, you can reroll the modifier, so you can sort of choose your own difficulty, which I do like, but my fucking god, I hate the Anointeds. If you've played through this game, you already know what an Anointed enemy is, but for the sake of the video, an Anointed is basically a buff version of one of the basic enemies. And these Anointeds have an extreme amount of health. The normal enemies are already bullet spongy enough on Mayhem 10, but the Anointeds legit have more health than bosses sometimes. Anointeds are just way too bullet spongy for them to be fun to go against. Definitely one of the bigger issues I have with the Mayhem system. Okay, so right before I went to go record the commentary for this video, I wanted to come back here and talk about the music, even though I know it has nothing to do with the gameplay. The music in every Borderlands game I've ever played has always been some of my most favorite in all of gaming, and that's because of the absolute vibes Borderlands music brings. A lot of Borderlands 1 soundtrack gives you those vibes of being in a rusty, dusty world that feels abandoned. And in Borderlands 2, you had soundtracks that also give you that feeling, while also having the more electronic soundtracks when you were in areas filled with Hyperion robots to fit the feeling of being in a cybernetic world. And in 3, they killed it again with the soundtrack. One thing Gearbox always nails with every Borderlands game, despite their problems, is always their environmental art and music. I absolutely love Sanctuary soundtrack in Borderlands 3. It gives you this feeling of warmth and safety and comfort. It really fits the feel that Borderlands 3 Sanctuary gives by feeling like an actual sanctuary. Meanwhile, Borderlands 2 Sanctuary also fits the theme by giving it that old, rusty western town vibes. I know that every Borderlands game has always had a mixed set of music artists that make music for the game, but every Borderlands game soundtrack I've always noticed has done best with Jesper Kid. For 1, 2, and 3, Jesper makes soundtracks that always fit whatever theme he's trying to go for and are always just absolute bangers. I love going through Eden 6 not only for the environment and better storytelling portion of the game, but also for its soundtrack. I legit was so excited to go through the Jacobs Manor just simply for this banger alone while I was slaughtering bandits. So, after all the time I spent playing through this game again, I will say that I hated it a lot less than what I did a few years back when this came out. And while, as I said earlier in the video, just because I hated it less than last time also doesn't mean that it just wipes away all the issues with the writing. I don't think Borderlands 3 is as timeless with its story than say Borderlands 1 or 2. And it's as I was talking about earlier with the fact that they decided to make the villain streamers for some reason. If they had just remained as cult leaders and nothing else, I think the story would have been a lot more timeless. Alright, so first off, I want to say thank you to whoever has watched this till the end. I spent so much time on the script alone, and so far I have no clue how much more time I'm going to be spending in editing, but I'm going to be honest with you guys, I need to take a break after this video is done. This video has taken away attention from things I've been wanting to do other than YouTube, so yeah, I am definitely in need of a break. But again, thank you all for watching, especially if you watched near the end. And let me know what your thoughts are. Do you agree with my takes, or do you think Borderlands 3 has some of the best storytelling you've ever seen from a Borderlands game? Thank you all for watching, and I shall see you when the next video drops.